Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Elise Hand, and I'll be your moderator for today's update on the Nova Scotia wildfire situation. Joining us today are Premier Tim Houston, Dustin Enslow, Deputy Warden of the County of Annapolis, from the Department of Natural Resources, Jim Rudderham, Director of Fleet and Forest Protection, and Scott Tingley, Manager of Forest Protection. And from the Department of Emergency Management, Andrew Mitton, Director of Regional Operations. We'll begin with remarks from our speakers, and then we'll allow reporters to ask one question and one follow-up question. We'll start with questions from in the room and then reporters who are joining us online. We do ask that media joining online please use the raise hand virtual function at the bottom of your screen under the reaction section to ask a question. And if you don't have a microphone, you can put your questions in the chat, but please also use the virtual raise hand function. And a reminder that outside of this media availability, media should direct all questions about the wildfires to wildfirecomms@novascotia.ca. And we will begin with remarks from the Premier.
Well, thanks so much. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to Jim, Scott, Andrew, and Deputy Warden Dustin for joining me today. We, as a province, we're totally on edge right now. Yesterday alone, we had 5 new fires. One of those fires in Cumberland County is still listed as out of control and estimated at around 2.5 in size, but we're optimistic that that fire we may get that fire under control shortly, so we're cautiously optimistic on that. And then the Long Lake fire, obviously that fire is out of control, so we have 2 out of control fires in the province at the moment right now. The Long Lake fire in Annapolis County took a real turn over the weekend, and it's had devastating impacts. It's now over 7,500 in size, maybe closer to 8,000. Over 230 homes have been evacuated, and there has been some loss of homes. This is a crushing feeling. We really can't imagine what it must feel like. And also with the added anxiety of not knowing what's happening to your home, it's an awful time. Out of respect for those families, they are being notified first before we confirm any numbers. So many people worked so hard to avoid this outcome. Our firefighters, pilots, heavy equipment operators, forestry contractors, ordinary citizens volunteering through the Nova Scotia Guard, everyday citizens doing their part to support first responders by simply staying out of the woods. But I have to specifically commend our emergency management team on their efforts that they made to go to the structures that were at risk and put tools in place like sprinklers to try to protect them. They did an incredible job trying to protect structures, and I'm very, very thankful for that. There is nothing worse than an out-of-control fire. And I know this is a scary time, particularly for those people who live in the valley. I've seen some of the images of this fire taken at nighttime, and it's pretty breathtaking, actually. So I know that it's an incredibly scary time for people who are also being exposed to incredible amounts of smoke. But I want you to know that we're doing everything we can as a province to help. Every resource at our collective disposal has been deployed and will be deployed. Please know that everyone you hear from today is completely dedicated to working as quickly as humanly possible to get those that are displaced back home. With the weather like we've seen and what we've forecast, it's going to take time. There is currently a comfort center open in the affected area, and we're seeing that Blue Noser spirit shining through. We're seeing many offers of help, offering food, clothing, etc. And thank you to each and every one of those people who are offering to help. The Nova Scotia Guard, I want to thank the Nova Scotia Guard for being so engaged and so active and stepping up and answering the call to help, but also to help coordinate all of these offers that we've been receiving. The Nova Scotia Guard is the best place to coordinate our many volunteers. So encourage people that have been reaching out to also reach out to the Guard. But they're doing an incredible job, and I'm thankful for their presence here. Now I want to speak to those that are directly affected by the fires. You're going through something that is completely unimaginable. Most people's worst nightmare. I know you're scared, and there's so much uncertainty because right now you don't know when you can go home, and you don't know what will be there. In that confusion, you may not know where to stay. You don't have access to a kitchen. You don't have access to just your everyday life. And we, as Nova Scotians, we feel that. We see it. And we want to do what we can to try to support you, and certainly to try to ease a small portion of the financial stress that comes with the urgency of this situation. So for every household that has been evacuated for 4 to 7 days, the province will provide each adult with $500 and each minor with $200 to help support you through your urgent needs right now. If you've been evacuated for 7 to 15 days, an additional $500 per adult and $200 per minor will be available to you. To get this support, please register with the Red Cross, and that's www.annapoliscounty.ca. I'm truly sorry for what you're going through. We feel this alongside with you. If there's anything you need from our province, or you think the province can help in any additional ways, please reach out to my email, premier@novascotia.ca. We'll do whatever we possibly can. And I just want to close by talking about another group of people who are impacted by these fires, and that's certainly the people who are responding to the fires, and definitely our firefighters. They're our heroes. They step up time and time again, and I just want to say thank you. You're saving lives. You are saving homes. We've had some bad outcomes and some bad news on that, but there's no doubt in my mind that your efforts have saved many homes. You're saving pets. You're saving pictures of loved ones long gone. You're doing a lot to support Nova Scotians, and we appreciate that. Our communities need you. We appreciate you, and we appreciate the brave work that you're doing to keep us safe. And if I can just emphasize the seriousness of these fires, the little bit of rain that we're getting today is certainly welcome, but it is far from enough to change the conditions in this province. We need a lot more rain, and I ask everyone for their patience. And I just want to reiterate that right now, the fire and woods bans are still in place, and they will remain in place until we get the rain that we need. Please respect these bans. Use your common sense. Do not burn. Stay out of the woods. Let's all do the Nova Scotia thing and take care of each other. Check on your neighbors. Offer what you can to help or to support. We will get through this. The rain will come. We just need to continue to work hard to be patient. But thank you.
Thank you so much. And we will hand it over to Deputy Warden Enslow next.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Premier, for the very fine words and words of encouragement. I also want to thank you for what the province stood up and announced this afternoon around the financial support. I know it's been a hot topic for various members that have been affected. So we just also want to thank the many people that have been supporting us through this, including the Department of Emergency Management, Department of Natural Resources, our various volunteers, as well as the various other partners that have been helping us through this difficult time. And I also want to make sure that our municipal employees don't go unnoticed. They're working diligently behind the scenes to make sure that the county is still operating at an efficient manner, as well as supporting what is needed from our municipal residents. From our perspective, we've been working diligently with the province to make sure that while they're the professionals looking after the actual front lines, and they're doing a phenomenal job at it. I know that we're going through a difficult time now, but our role is to support our residents. We're the ones that pick up the pieces at the end of this, and we've seen continued support from the province, and we look forward to that relationship moving forward. I know from our perspective, the past 24 hours has been very difficult. Actually, the past 12 days have been very difficult, but we'll continue and adapt and overcome. So we do have people that have been using all of our services. We've had 138 people so far registered at the NSCC shelter location that's being provided by the Red Cross. And we're continuing to see the numbers increase with that, as well as we're providing the different types of support, whether it's through Kids Help phone line, different mental health lines, as well as we're working closely with Salvation Army to make sure that we are able to pass the donations through. So we just want to ensure to the residents that as we continue to go through this challenging time, that we're here to support you and to work with the province to make sure that we can get through this successfully together. Our hearts are definitely with the families that are affected, especially the ones that are going to be experiencing loss of structures. I know that our employees are working very hard right now to actually contact all the affected members once we work through that. And we want to make sure that we're telling people in person and just not over the phone. So we're trying to make sure that we, as the Premier said, we're going to do the blue noser way and look after each other, and we'll continue to do so. And as we move forward, we'll adapt our plan of support as we move on. We are in it for the long haul, and we do appreciate everything that's going on. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Deputy Warden Enslow. And finally, remarks from Jim Rudderham, Director of Fleet and Forest Protection with the Department of Natural Resources. Jim, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Yesterday was a very challenging day for the firefighters across the province, not just on Long Lake Fire. We had numerous other starts yesterday as well that, with the conditions as extreme as they are, our crews are in the field are racing to those very quickly and getting them under control as quickly as they can. So that continues as well. But the day on Long Lake was a bad one. Despite best efforts, a week of planning and everything we could do, that fire responded as we thought it would to the weather. The weather conditions were not good for us. It responded pretty much as we thought it would, and that fire stood up and ran away. It's a lot larger than it was. Many homes were saved, but some were lost, as we know. The Department of Emergency Management will get those exact numbers and the nature of the damage, and the municipality, as we know, will inform the residents infected. Yesterday's conditions were so extreme that we couldn't touch them with any resources. It was just too much. The fire behavior at peak burn time was just too much for any amount of resources. Couldn't have touched that fire yesterday. We certainly tried as much as we could, but at a certain point, it's not safe for anyone to be in there, and we had to leave. Today's rain, as the Premier mentioned, will help. We'll take any amount of rain we can get, but it's not enough. It won't be enough to bring this fire under control or to remove any restrictions we have in the province right now. So it is a stressful time for all of us fighting this fire. I said yesterday, and I'll say again, my heart does go out to the residents that are evacuated and now some that have lost. I can't imagine how they must feel. So it is a difficult time for all.
Thank you, Jim. And we will open up the room for questions to start. And remember, those who are on Zoom from media, feel free to raise your virtual hand, and we will get to your question after we answer questions in the room. So anybody in the room have questions for our panel?
Are you considering triggering a state of emergency to get more federal help for the wildfires?
We're always looking at those types of things, but I think the mutual aid system that we have across the country has obviously been very, very effective in this instance. Sometimes we're sending resources places, sometimes we're the beneficiary of those, and we've seen that over this fire season. We're in constant discussions with the federal government. We have opened up some access points already, but we'll continue to assess.
There are evacuees staying at the NSCC. So what's the plan with school starting next week? How long will it continue to be used as a dormitory for evacuees?
Yeah, we're in those discussions with the NSCC at the moment. Obviously, we know school is on the horizon here. But right now the priority is supporting the evacuees and getting this fire under control. But we'll have those discussions with the NSCC as we get closer.
And when the fire started, there was concern about a nearby communications tower. Is that still a concern, and how close is the fire to that tower?
Yeah, I think maybe Scott or Jim may be able to speak to that, but I know certainly in the early days there was a lot of fire guards built around critical infrastructure in certain areas, but they could speak specifically to maybe one of you guys speak to the tower situation and some of that infrastructure in the area.
Yeah, I believe Andrew could answer that one for us.
Yeah, I can. So we do have a communications tower there that's owned by the province. The first couple of days of the fire, we knew that there's going to be some risk towards it. So we had the structural protection crews supported by the volunteer fire departments to go in and do some clearing around that and some manual hydration around that tower. And it's still there and functioning.
Andrew, any other questions from in the room? Go ahead.
How the province will support evacuees who have no home insurance?
Those who have no home insurance. I mean, we'll have to see what the situation is there. But right now, these supports we've announced today are just trying to get people through this period of time.
I have another question, maybe for natural resource. With the rain forecast for today, are we still talking about the extreme firefighting conditions?
Yes, we are. This rain will help for today a little bit, but we are definitely still have extreme conditions. We need a good steady rain for days to make a real difference here. That's where we are.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
So there's now financial assistance for those who have been evacuated. Will there be a similar program for people who have had their houses damaged or if they've lost their homes?
We'll have to assess that, but in most cases, people would have insurance. But we'll have to see what we're looking at when it's all said and done.
We'll go to our reporters who are on Zoom. So we'll start with Nicola Seguin from CBC. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Is there any concern about further evacuations or more homes that could be lost today or in the coming days?
I think maybe Jim, you want to expand, but we're in a very difficult situation with this fire in particular, but across the province with the conditions. So if we need to evacuate people to keep people safe, then we certainly will. But the growth of the fire yesterday is something that was pretty remarkable, and we're concerned about that going forward. But Jim, I don't know if you want to elaborate on the concerns of what may happen with this fire over the next few days.
Yeah, your Premier is right. Of course, this fire is still out of control, still active. We'll still try to fight it, but it does have the potential, again, with the conditions we have in this province and with the weather as it is, still has the potential to do that again. So things could happen. We're watching it very carefully, trying very hard.
Okay, thank you. And Premier, just 2 years ago, we lost more than 200 homes. How does it feel to be kind of going through that again?
I think the emotions that I feel are certainly felt by the team that are on the ground and by all Nova Scotians. Really, it's an awful situation to know that fellow Nova Scotians are losing their homes and in some cases everything. And it's I think as Premier, I feel it very very personally, but so do the firefighters who are out there working so hard, and the pilots and the forestry contractors that are trying to get in front of it, the people working the heavy equipment. There are people that are working in situations where they can feel this tremendous heat, and we know that their own personal safety, is something that we watch, but they're doing everything they can, and it's an awful feeling, an out of control fire. It's just an awful feeling. You have so much that is, the fire is out of control, but there's so much that's out of our control. we actually need the weather to cooperate. We need the winds to cooperate. We need some rain. So there's just so much unknown and uncertainty. But it's an awful feeling. It's a really awful feeling.
Okay, we'll go to Aaron Beswick with the Chronicle Herald. Aaron, go ahead.
Hi, Premier Houston. As you well know, the weather, it's dry throughout the entire province right now, but Nova Scotia gets varied weather throughout it. If areas get more rain and, the fire risk rating becomes lower in other areas of the province, would you consider variating the order to the Woods Band order, by county or by regions of Nova Scotia, or will the entire province continue to be held by the worst denominator in terms of fire conditions?
Of course, if we can vary it, we will. Just take yesterday. Just yesterday alone. 5 new fires in various parts of the province. And first responders and firefighters rushing to get to those, to try to get them under control. We talked last week that, in kind of more normal circumstances, you get a call of a smoke or, possible fire. The crew may have 15 or 20 minutes to get there to assess it and maybe, take some action to keep it under control or maybe even extinguish it. It's not 15 or 20 minutes right now. It's 2 or 3 or 4 minutes. And sometimes it doesn't matter if you're standing right over top of it. That fire could stand up and run away. So we have awful situations. We have people trying to respond and get these fires under control. And then at the same time, what if we have a fire somewhere and we find out there's people hiking in there and we got to try to get them out of there. So look, I know people want to go in the woods, but there's a whole bunch of other people that just want to keep everyone else safe and protect homes. If we can safely get people in the woods because we get a bunch of rain, then absolutely. There's nothing more. I can't wait for the day we can come up here and say, good news, the bans are over. Please enjoy yourself. But in the meantime, right now in this province, there are people that somebody is coming to visit to tell them your house is gone. You've lost everything. So I get that there are people who love to go for a hike. I kind of like to go for one myself, to be honest. I understand that. But we are trying to keep people safe and keep structures safe. When we can amend the order, we'll be happy to do it. It's not today.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Keith Doucette with the Canadian Press.
Hi, thanks. A question for Jim or for Scott. We talked on the weekend on Saturday, actually, and if my math's right, this fire more than doubled in size in a 24-hour period. I wonder if you can just tell us how that happened. Was it a matter of, obviously there were winds and it was dry, but did the fire move in areas where you had breaks and it just jumped them, or did it go to areas where you hadn't had a chance to perhaps construct some breaks? And just maybe describe exactly how it doubled in size practically overnight.
Yeah, I can talk to that. So it did jump breaks that we worked very hard to build, but we don't know how long it took to jump those breaks. So the breaks held, but imagine yesterday there was about 6 hours of, we call it peak burn time, and that's when that fire was very active. The breaks probably held for quite some time before they finally went over. So it could have been larger, but that's what happened. The fire moves. It moved around. Pretty much the whole perimeter grew a little bit, but some parts grew obviously worse. The part where the winds were pushing it. But it was just so dry. The winds were pushing that fire along. That's how it grew so fast. That we had very heavy winds and it was very dry, and that's what happens.
And then maybe for Scott, what's the most concerning direction right now in terms of where it's burning most intensely, or is it just the entire fire is like that?
That'll be a constant assessment against the forecasted weather. Like Jim and the Premier mentioned earlier, we have favorable conditions today with cloud cover, and there's some light rain reported in the area. Hopefully we'll get more, but it'll be constantly measured against basically the wind direction and any drying that we have this week. So today's a favorable day, so just it's going to depend which direction the wind's coming out of, but we're dealing with a very large fire. It was already a large fire, so all areas are going to be of concern in terms of containment, and obviously priority and focus will be on where there are values at risk, and particularly homes and infrastructure.
Thank
Right,
you.
thank you.
We'll go to Sheldon McLeod with MBS Radio next.
Thank you. Scott, if you may, could you perhaps explain to us what is going to be happening for the on-the-ground firefight? If some of the berms or areas or fire breaks were breached, what is the plan for today and tomorrow?
Crews were in there at daybreak again this morning. They grouped together last night. They had a huddle, assessed the changes and the impacts and got together on a new plan. And they're back in there trying to put brakes in again and put water on this fire and try to contain it. So they're back in there where it's safe and just getting back at the fight.
For a follow-up, what can you tell us about the air assets today?
There's low cloud, so the fixed wing aircraft we'll wait to see. They weren't going to be flying this morning, but likely have some helicopters overhead, and we have all the same assets in the province, and we'll keep them here, for the foreseeable.
Thanks very much. Natasha O'Neill with City News.
Hi, I had just a clarification question mostly. I think the Premier said in his remarks that about 230 homes were evacuated, but I did just get a release from the province saying 330. Can we just confirm the number, please?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So there was originally 100, and then an additional 230 last night with the expanded area, which is the 330 in total.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm hoping to ask about the tactics around homes. There's a photo that was released by the province that shows the communication tower and scarred land all around it. I'm just kind of wondering if the material of the homes perhaps was part of the reason why some of them were lost and the communication tower still is standing.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of varying factors that go into that, and a lot of it has to do with the materials on the homes, materials around the homes, vegetation, as well as topography that play into that.
Okay,
thank you.
Thanks, Natasha, and thanks, Andrew. Richard Cuthbertson with CBC.
Oh, hi there. It was mentioned earlier, and I think I have this right, that the extreme conditions yesterday meant you couldn't touch the fire. I'm wondering if you could just be a little bit more precise. What exactly about those conditions meant you couldn't touch the fire? And what does touching the fire mean in practical terms?
Yeah, so that means if you were to put water on it, there was no effect. It was just too powerful, too strong. You couldn't get near enough to it regardless. But even if you had, the biggest water bombers in the world yesterday, when it was at its biggest point, dropping water on that fire, it wasn't you couldn't touch it. That's what I mean. That's just the term we use. It just wouldn't affect putting that fire out.
Right, that's helpful. Another question, just dealing with the sprinklers that were deployed about a week or so ago, I think, in that sort of West Dalhousie Road area. Are those still there, or were those sort of pulled back and deployed on homes a little bit further away?
Yeah, no, all the sprinklers are still there and operational. We actually have crews up there today that are maintaining those, making sure that they're still up and running. I know when they were up this morning, when we left last night, there were pumps going, and those pumps were still going this morning.
Thank you.
Jason Malloy with Annapolis Valley Register.
Good afternoon, guys. Families in Annapolis County received unimaginable news today. There's a lot of uncertainty in the community. I asked one evacuee what he would ask the Premier if he had the chance, and this was his reply. Is anyone going to give us any kind of hope if we have to rebuild that we're not going to be alone? So I guess that's my question from one of the evacuees to you, Mr. Premier.
Yeah, thank you. And I can only imagine the emotion of that exchange, because you have the anxiety of the not knowing what happened to your home, and then if your home is severely impacted, what are you going to do? This is an awful feeling, and as a province, I mean, we'll do what we can to support people. Certainly, in 2023, we took some action to support people. We'll look back at that, even if it's helping them deal with insurance and deal with those types of paperwork and stuff. We'll do what we can. But I think what I would say to that person in the moment is that the effort to get this fire under control and to protect structures is world class. I mean, we have the best people here, the most dedicated. They are just so focused on fighting this fire and protecting structures. These tools that we've been talking about to deploy these sprinkler systems, those are new tactics, and even if they couldn't protect every structure in every home, they will have most certainly protected and saved a number. So the effort to protect and support through the moment is we'll do everything we can in that space, and then once we get through this, we'll try to support Nova Scotians as best as we can. I think our record shows that.
Do you know any specifics that were put in place 2 years ago that might put some people's that are going through this process now, their mind at ease a bit, Mr. Premier?
I don't know what would put their mind at ease as they deal with kind of the trauma and the anxiety, but sometimes on the I think last time there was some long-term support around property tax assessment bases and just through shelter support for shelter through the rebuilding process, but we'll continue to listen very carefully to what the needs are of people, and where we can meet them, we will.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. And we do need to end it here to allow Andrew and Scott and Jim to get back to managing fires. Thank you, Deputy Warden Enslow, and thank you, Premier, for joining us, and hope everyone has a great day.